Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Kathy of mypolyglotlife.com and I want to offer you a little video about French grammar, but I'm not gonna make it boring like a lecture. I'm gonna ask you to think, to observe, to find your own rules. I'm gonna help you, tell you some useful things you need to know, and I hope by the end of the video you'll get a better grasp on the future tense in French, and first of all on what we call the future proche. We'll see the other future in another video. Alright, so I'll reduce, no, I have one more word to tell you before that. So I'm going to present you Grammaire douce pour le cerveau. So it's a method I use that's based on Rachel Paling's Neurolanguage Coaching method. She's doing brain-friendly grammar in English, and I'm doing brain-friendly grammar in French. And one of the principles is to observe a lot, to immerse yourself in the language. And also we want you to follow your own thought process. So I'm going to give you some elements, very logical elements about the grammar concept to help you recreate the process in your own brain so that you can fully understand that concept, fully grasp what we use it for, when you should use it, how to use it, and then the rest is up to you. With practice, you'll be able to apply it, first with controlled practice with the teacher, with exercises and little situations. And then eventually, after a lot of practice, you'll be able to apply it naturally in your own daily life. So that's the goal, is that you learn in a very structured, logical way, very deep understanding and a lot of practice, so that you learn it once and for all, and then you don't need to keep doing the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. You can save time and get better foundations on your French. Alright, so I'm gonna reduce my face to give more space to the presentation. So we're talking about the future tense, future proche, and future simple. The presentation will be in English, but because I'm switching between English and French, that's going to be a kind of bilingual presentation. And let's go to the next slide. All right, I wrote a little text, so that's the first phase of the method is the observation phase. And the context here is Sophie is writing an email to a dear friend she hasn't seen in a long time. So they're catching up. I'm going to be Sophie. I'm going to tell you about what happened in my life and what I'm going to do next, especially what I'm going to do next. Salut ma belle. So that's a greeting you use with a good friend. Salut ma belle, comment ça va? De mon côté, je suis super contente. Je vais commencer mon nouveau travail dans 2 semaines. Je vais travailler en anglais, alors pour bien me préparer, je vais prévoir quelques séances de conversation avec un tuteur. Je vais aussi acheter quelques vêtements pour renouveler ma garde-robe. Ça va être un grand défi pour moi, mais ça va aller. Ici, le gouvernement a annoncé la fin du confinement. Ça veut dire que les enfants vont pouvoir retourner à l'école. Ils vont pouvoir enfin retrouver leurs amis et ils vont arrêter de passer toute la journée devant un écran d'ordinateur. Ils vont plus perturber mes réunions Zoom avec leurs disputes. Pour les prochaines vacances, c'est décidé, on va pas rentrer en France comme d'habitude. On va aller en Australie. C'est dans 8 mois, mais on a déjà prévu où on va aller et ce qu'on va faire. J'ai trop hâte. Et toi, vas-tu retourner en France bientôt? Ta mère va-t-elle venir te voir? Ça m'a fait super plaisir de recevoir ta carte postale. J'allais justement t'écrire, mais t'as été plus rapide que moi. Cette année, j'ai décidé que j'allais arrêter de procrastiner et que j'allais donner des nouvelles plus souvent. Embrasse toute ta famille pour moi, bisous. Okay, so that's a very informal email you're writing to a friend. That's why I put the ne. Ils ne vont plus perturber. I put that in brackets because when I'm speaking informally, I'm never going to say that. So I wrote it so you know it's there, because if you're writing a formal email, you have to write it. But in informal situations, you don't use it. So that's why I didn't say it when I read the email. And the sentences in over here, et toi, vas-tu retourner en France bientôt? Sorry. Okay, so the sentence is et toi, vas-tu retourner en France bientôt? Ta mère va-t-elle venir te voir? I put them in italic font because they're not very natural way of speaking informally. I put them there because I wanted the examples to explain the rules. But if I was speaking to a real friend, I would say est-ce que tu vas retourner en France bientôt? Est-ce que ta mère va venir te voir? Ta mère va venir te voir? I would phrase it like that, not with the inversion of the subject and the verb. But I needed that for the example. Alright, let's move on to the next phase. So feel free to pause the video there and to really look at the text and analyze everything. And I have some questions to help you in the next slide. So from your previous knowledge of what you know about the futur proche and from observing the text, what do you know about the futur proche? And if you're not sure which verbs are futur proche, they're the ones in yellow. So I already marked them down for you. So observe all the sentences, write down everything you can think about, take a pen, paper, pause the video as long as you need. And if you don't know anything, move on to question 2. So what do you notice about those verbs in yellow? And what do you know from what you studied in class, maybe? So pause the video, take as long as you need. I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is where I share my observations with you about what I notice as a French teacher, as a native, what I see in that text, what's interesting, and what I want you to focus your attention on. So first of all, you may see that I chose to rename that tense from futur proche to future certain because that it conveys more the context in which we use that tense is more about certainty than about how close it is in time to me. So let's see what else I can see in that text. So construction of the futur proche, futur certain is the verb aller and the infinitive. So it's the verb aller followed by another verb in the base form, the one you can see in the dictionary. And sometimes there's even more verb. There's even another word, and there's even another verb after that. Ils vont pouvoir retourner. Oh my god, that's 3 verbs in the same sentence. So, ils vont pouvoir, that's the futur proche. They will be able to retourner, to come back. They will be able to come back. And then I can see that aller is the part that's conjugated and agrees with the subject. Je, tu, il, elle, on, nous, vous, il ou elle in the plural. Aller is a present tense. Aller est au présent. Je vais acheter. But sometimes there's those 2 sentences at the end where aller is in the imperfect. J'allais t'écrire. So it's like future proche, but conjugated in the past. What? I'm going to explain that to you. Don't worry. It's you may have never noticed before, but it actually makes sense when you think about it. You can have aller followed by aller. On va aller. That's twice the verb aller. That's fine. Don't worry. In a negative sentence, ne pas ou ne plus verb. Ils ne vont plus passer. So you see that pas ou plus gets in between the vont and the passé, between the aller and the infinitive. It's like when you conjugate with passé composé in the past tense in passé composé. Je n'ai pas fait. Je ne vais pas faire. Same construction. The pas plus goes in the middle in between the 2 verbs. Question with an inversion, so that's the artificial examples I put in the text. You put the aller is the conjugated verb, so it goes first, then the subject, then the second verb. Vas-tu retourner? And in the other sentence, ta mère va-t-elle? Why do we put a T in there? Why do we add that T? Is just for pronunciation, because we are used to hearing a T at the third person singular, like peut-elle, peut-il. So, because we're so used to that, I guess we just added that T after the va, va-t-il. because it's not there at va, so we're very frustrated, it's not there, so we had to put it in the middle. If you speak English, which you probably do if you're watching that video, you'll be familiar with that construction because it's the same. It's basically the same as in English. I'm going to, we're going to, I'm gonna, you're gonna. And you also use it in the past. I was going to. So when I mentioned that j'allais t'écrire is like future proche in the past, it's the same in English. I was going to write to you, but you wrote to me before I had a chance to do it. And that's also linked to discours indirect, reported speech. And this is just, there's not really any logic, it's just a rule of how we translate direct speech into indirect speech. Je décide que je vais arrêter de procrastiner is what I'm saying now. That's my resolution for 2021. Je décide que je vais arrêter de procrastiner. And when I transfer it to the past, when I conjugate in the past, j'ai décidé que, so that's the beginning of the sentence is in the past. J'ai décidé que j'allais arrêter de procrastiner. So I'm taking that present tense, je vais arrêter, in the past imparfait. J'allais arrêter de procrastiner. That's just how reported speech works in French. You just have to remember that. And context, when can I see we use that futur proche, futur certain? I would say I'm 100% sure of what I'm going to do. Sophie, in that email, is very sure, very decided about what she's going to do next. She's going to work, she has her contract, her start date is in 2 weeks, she knows she has a plan of action before that. And even if her vacation are in 8 months, she has booked the tickets, she has booked the itinerary and the hotels and all the activities she's going to do. So it's certain. So even though it's far in time, it's in 8 months from now, it doesn't matter. It's futur proche or future certain. That's why I call it that way, future certain. Okay, feel free to pause the video again to digest all that, really look at my notes, really look at the text at the same time, take your own notes, and because that's going to be useful for step number 3. In your own words, what do you know about futur proche now? And can you relate it to something similar in another language you know? And if not, how is it different from the languages you know? If you speak English, I already told you there's a clear connection between the two. It works the same. So that's going to be really easy to use futur proche in French. And Spanish works the same as well. So not super difficult. Now imagine you're explaining the concept of futur proche, future certain to a 5-year-old child. Use the language of your choice. You can draw, you can give examples, whatever works for you. Be creative. Don't worry about how you do it, as long as you do it in a way that speaks to you and that makes sense for you. And finally, if you're confusing futur proche with other tenses or other syntax, how could you do to remember that tense? How could you come up with mnemonics or strategies to remember when to use it, how to construct it, how to make negative sentence, how to make questions, all the situations where you can use futur proche or future certain. And little hint, in what situations do we use it? So when you're explaining to the 5-year-old child, remember to tell him or her in what situations you use that tense and what's the intention you want to convey with that conjugation. That's very important in French. Conjugations add a nuance to your speech, and that's why I emphasize how important conjugations are. Like, when you're speaking, it doesn't matter if you make errors, but if you want to achieve a higher level in French, like a C1, C2, you need to be aware of those nuances and to be able to use them. Step 4, so pause the video as long as you need for that step 3. Step 4 are questions. If you have a tutor, teacher, you can ask those questions to clarify with them. You can contact me for sessions if you want extra help, or ask some questions in the comments, but I won't be able to dig too deep in the comments because there's limited space and it's easier to speak, to explain. All right. I'm continuing. Step 5. Now that you understand the concept, all that is left for you to do is to practice, practice, practice again. First task is really easy, really fun. I'm advising you and recommending you to listen to French songs and videos and pay attention to the future proche and how it's used. Do you think you can do that? I think you can do that. And then make your own sentences or little text with examples from your own life, like that email from Sophie I wrote. Write your own email to your imaginary friend or real friend and tell them about your life and what you're going to do in the next few weeks or month. And finally, you can join my masterclass at the end of January to get some practice in a controlled environment. And we're going to work with a very concrete and personal situation. We're going to set up your goals for 2021 and practice at the same time future proche, future simple, and conditional. But that's not all. I still have a little bonus for you in this video. We're going to work with a few examples with the grammar translation method. I'm not a big fan of the grammar translation because if I give you sentences to translate, I build those sentences in English from my French-speaking background. So they might not relate to what you have in your mind when you speak in English. But it's still useful to see side by side the French and the English. So that's why I provide a few examples like that. And it's useful method for some people. So first example, I'm gonna visit my grandma on Sunday. I'll leave you 3 seconds to try to make that sentence. You can pause the video if you need more. 1, 2, 3. Ta-da! Je vais aller voir ma grand-mère dimanche. Second example. Are you gonna go to Luke's party? 3 seconds. Tu vas aller à la fête de Luc? So that's a very informal question. It's just the same syntax as an affirmation with interrogation and rising intonation. Tu vas aller à la fête de Luc? Third example. That's a tough riddle. They're never gonna find the answer. 1, 2, 3. C'est une énigme difficile. Ils vont jamais trouver la réponse. So again, it's an informal speech, so I didn't say ils ne vont jamais trouver la réponse. But if you're taking a French test, write ils ne vont jamais trouver la réponse. Next example. Really? Are you sure you were gonna have fun? 1, 2, 3. Si, je t'assure, on va bien s'amuser. Alright, I hope you liked this exercise. I just wanted to mention one last thing about futur proche. So you probably use it a lot because it's the easiest way of speaking in the future in French, and you probably do that ever since you did the A2 level in French. And in real life, that's totally fine. We're a lot more flexible with the way we use future simple or future proche. So if you're fine with future proche, keep doing that. When you want to step up your game in French and really go into those advanced levels, I really encourage you to dig deeper in that nuance between future proche and future simple and to practice with a native so that they can explain to you the nuances, tell you when is right, when is not so natural. And if you're taking a test like DELF, TEF, TCF, you kind of need to be clear on those nuances if you want to get the B2 level. It's not going to make you fail, but that can bring you some extra points to get to that B2 level in the speaking and listening and in the speaking and written tests. Okay, that's all for the futur proche, future certain. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you have questions, if you liked this style of speaking about the French grammar. and I'll find you in the next video for the other future.